Luca Nation, welcome back. Episode 893 of Lucas Tigers and Bronze Oh My. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of 2023 and you're kicking it off with all the amazing content we have. Starting with the Collector Series hosted by Mr. DPZ, Cajun Cardboard's PWCC Weekly Recap. We did an episode last night with Cage about how LeBron might be the MVP of the league, and then LeBron heard it and he decided to sit out. So we'll see if
500 to 1. MGM plus 50,000.
You don't even know how much that's going to be.
I don't know.
You can't do the math. You can't do the. You don't know if you're going to make, if you bet $1,000. You don't know if it's 50,000 or 500,000.
500. I said 500 to 1.
You sure?
Yeah, plus 500 would be 5 to 1. Plus 5,000 would be 50 to 1. Plus 50,000 is 500 to 1.
So you would use $1,000 bet on
would
LeBron
pay you
winning.
$500,000 at MGM right now.
Do you think they know something that we don't? As soon as he breaks the record, he's gonna.
No, I checked other places. It's over 30,000 everywhere. Over plus 30,000.
Right, but do you think Vegas knows that after he breaks the record?
No. I think what they know is that it's still a long shot. Just like I said, I'd sprinkle some money on it because the payoff is so great and the field is so vast that I don't think anybody has, jumped out. And every single day there's another person who's like, oh, but it's Donovan Mitchell. Oh my God, it could be Clay. It's not Clay just because he scored 54. Oh, Giannis had 55 points. Oh, it could be DeAndre Ayton. Oh, wait, it could be Anthony Davis. No, it couldn't be either of those, but you get what I'm saying, right?
So $10, $10 to 5,000.
Yeah, $10 would pay you 500 to 1. Yeah, $10 would pay you $5,000 exactly.
That feels too easy for me. That feels too big. The odds are too big.
Okay, so take a second and type in NBA MVP odds. I mean, I thought I showed you, odds yesterday in the group chat, but some of them were 30, 35. Some of them was, 350 to 1. Plus 35,000. I saw. I think it was FanDuel was one. BetMGM was the highest. That plus 50,000 was the highest one out there. But none of them were close.
What blows my mind is the blueprint for LeBron winning is so clear. Surround him with spot-up shooters, and if they could defend, all the better. They constructed this roster without that, and it blows my mind because this isn't a bad team. This is a team that misses one or two pieces that fit LeBron's game, which is a 40% three-point shooter who could defend. You get a second guy like that. I think that's 9 to 12 points a game you're adding. And they're a 3 seed, a 4 seed.
Tell me what teams have that. And what we'll do is we'll see the top teams. You'll have the Desmond Bane who's added to Ja. You'll have, even pieces, right? Oh, how many teams have that? I mean, you could say the same thing about Luka. Who's his 40%, shooter? He's
Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway, Reggie Bullock. All of them have been cold. But
none of them shoot 40% from 3. Yeah, not even close, I don't think. Dinwiddie's probably 26.
To find a specialist like Clay where it's 3 and D, obviously that's
Well, like Joe Harris, you know what I mean, who might not be so much D, but he's definitely got the 3 down. I get what you're saying, but those
Duncan Robinson is someone who had some flash in the paint. Yeah, he actually looks like my buddy John Boswell. If Johnny Boswell is listening, here's one. I mean, Dylan Brooks. No way they get him, but I
think love Dylan Brooks.
I don't. I hate Dylan Brooks. I hate Dylan Brooks, but he's
there. He
sort
is in
of
the background crying.
Yeah, he's sort of the odd man out on that Memphis team, in my opinion. Malik Beasley is another one that I would take a look at on the Jazz. There are guys out there. I'm just surprised that they
Davis Bertans.
He had a moment.
I just like saying his name.
Who else? I had it. Yeah. Anyway. Back to Lucas Tigers and Bronze Oh My. I wanted to ask you, I was listening to the Dr. Beckett P. Ryan episode dropped today, and one of the cool points was about marketing versus hype versus pumping.
Okay. And how marketing versus hype versus pumping. So all 3 of those 3 different things. They've defined.
Where do we draw the line, right? Because I own a card. And actually, my sister was there, and we were watching the Logan Paul response video to CoffeeZilla, and she was like, "I believe him," and it was funny. But she was like, why do some things need pumping, but the Mantle 52? She was like, no one needs to pump that. Why does that have organic growth? Or do people market that card and still storytell around it?
That's market. That's pump too.
How do you, but we go into 2023. We haven't heard of F1 from anybody. There hasn't been a peep about F1 in a long time. Was that marketing, or was that hype, or was that pumping? More from an educational perspective, because on the surface, they all look like Pepsi and Coke. They all look like the same. They all look identical. But how do you differentiate? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. We could save this question. This could be an opener for the Friday Coffee with Cage. But I thought it was an interesting kind of debate discussion.
So your three are marketing, pumping, and what else?
And hype.
Hype. I mean, to me,
T-Law is going to be that guy going into the season.
I don't know if I love the three of them. I think, and we've talked about this before, to me, you won't know because you're not going to ever really know the intention of the person who's doing it. But to me, that's the differentiator, right? And I think when it came to F1, sure, there were probably some people out there who were genuine F1 fans and thought it was cool that F1, the sport, was getting cards and that they were excited about it and they were talking about it. Could those be hype? Could those be marketing? Could that be a true fandom rather than a pump? Definitely. There were, I think, many more people who realized the marketing cycles that were going on. And that if you watch what was happening in the card market was, okay, this sector made money. That cooled, it fizzled, and people were looking where to move their money next. You know, which NFT is going to be the next Bored Apes? Who's going to be the next one to pop? And I have to take my prep from here and move it to here. We saw Top Shot money got moved into Bored Apes. Bored Ape money got moved into wherever the hell else they put their money. Zedrun or whatever the frig was going on. But F1, a lot of people who were talking about it were taking their money from something and moving it into F1, whether it was soccer, Mbappe moving it into F1. Then they were taking it and moving it into, Marvel PMGs. The difference to me was, what were they doing it for? What was the intent of talking it up? Was it to help organically grow a sport or a segment of the hobby that they truly love? I mean, you look at
and they're going to keep their money in.
I can't blame that. The initial thought is to keep the money in, but if something explodes, and now your stuff is worth 10 times as much, I'm not going to fault you for taking your money out as long as your intent in the beginning was not to just blow it up and take your money out. So I was just going to talk about like Mama Breaks, right? She does Star Wars breaks. You could tell that's somebody who enjoys Star Wars, enjoys the cards, and markets those cards, right? Hypes up those cards, does breaks of those cards, but also collects those cards, right? And you see, even if the prices are not high, oh, wow, I like this card. Look at this card. Look, this is cool art on this card. Look at the artist who did this sketch on this one. That's cool. That's someone who's, you can objectively look at their PC. Whereas you're right, some of the people who were talking about, wrestling. So I'm going to use my friend Shyway Vlogs. All right, Shayway Vlogs, who I want to come back to the hobby in 2023. I put him in my video. Everybody loves this guy, right? And he's currently on a kick of buying red soccer cards. Right? There was some Merlin red ones.
The ones that are out of 5, right?
Red out of 5, right? He had some, you name it, the whole deal. But today, if you check his story out, he is posting some cards for sale because the red chase has taken over his life. Yeah, you can look at his story right now. The chase for reds has taken over his life. Well, unfortunately, like his life has been taken over by 500 different red chases over the last 500 different weeks. And what you'll notice is one of the cards that he's selling, I think on Golden, which, by the way, if you're listening to this early enough, Golden's auction is ending Wednesday night, the night we're putting this out. It's weird. There's an auction ending tonight. And there's some major cards in it. There's a LeBron Exquisite. There's an Aaron Judge jersey. He hit 3 home runs with wearing the jersey. There's some big ticket items, and it ends tonight. Yeah, go take a look. Make sure I'm not wrong. I don't like misinforming people. But if you happen to listen to this, we'll put it out, before the auction ends. But if you're one of the first, people to listen to it, there's probably going to be some steals because there's not a lot of auctions that ends on Wednesday. I'm right?
I don't have an account with Golden.
Okay, but if you just type golden.co,
I'm trying.
And it'll show the auction ending tonight. If you click on it, you'll see probably LeBron Exquisite ending. It'll probably be lot number 1.
Holiday monthly sports auction.
And it should say it's got like a couple hours left as we record this. But so,
3 hours,
one of
29 minutes. You're
there you go.
absolutely
So
right.
so one of the things on Shyway Vlogs' thing was he's selling the Rock Prism Gold out of 10. I think some of those sold in the original run up, but that card is, now I think that'll be the first public sale of it. But remember, when Wrestling Prism came out, all of these people jumped on Wrestling Prism. They jumped on UFC Prism. They were buying the golds. They were buying all these cards and spending, all this money for it. So now we're moving into Red Soccer. We're selling the gold stuff. So the difficult part is I'll never know what the intent was at the time. I can't really skewer him, right? Because maybe he planned on keeping that Rock card forever. Maybe he really was a fan of wrestling cards when Wrestling Prism came out. I don't know whether he was hyping it up for the right reasons, the wrong reasons, or whatnot. After
I'm
the
worried
fact,
about that WWE Prism because that was advertised. I remember people.
it's already got crushed.
It got crushed because it was like the first WWE Prism was like the whole catch to that,
Mhm.
right? The whole marketing hype behind it, and I can't imagine it stood the test of time.
No, it's gotten killed. A lot of the UFC Prism stuff has gotten killed, and it was a good example of talkers moving money into that. You saw people buying cases, thousands of dollars for the cases. Boxes were over $1,000 each, right? And now they're not. They're a couple $100 each. So I think a lot of it was, money was being moved from segment to segment to segment to chase more profit.
So let's talk about this. So I pulled up the golden auction. You're right, it ends tonight. There's some amazing stuff in this, and I'll say 2 items, and you'll tell me hype, not hype.
On the lower end stuff, there's a lot of really
There's a Pele game worn jersey.
Yep.
And then there's a Haaland photo matched game worn jersey. You want to take a guess at what the Pele game worn is sitting at right now?
What team?
Pele game used Brazil national team jersey, Paulo Cesar Lima LOA. Letter of intent of authentication.
Letter of authenticity, yeah.
And then
the Haaland, is it a rookie jersey for Haaland? Is it
10th goal of the season?
But what is it? Is it a Dortmund jersey?
No, it's Man City, September 3, 2022.
I mean, to me, even though it's photo match, which is pretty cool, that shouldn't sell for more than a Pele, but I'm sure it is.
The Pele is $5K with 1 bid on it. The Haaland is 17,000.
There you go. I mean, as great as Haaland is, he's played 10 games in the Premier League, right?
Cage, before the season, I mean, Jay, who's our buddy from Australia, knows this. I was talking to him and his son who were at the Maccabi games in Israel. I said, Haaland's going to break 40 goals this year, and he's going to set the single season record. We haven't seen a beast like this in a long time, and he's playing in the right system. He's going to do that. Great call. Great job, Andrew.
Yep.
But we're talking about 3.5x on a Pele because
Pele.
of photo match? Because of photo matching?
Well, I mean, the photo matching is great. It can tell you what games but who cares? Who cares what games? I mean, are those big games? Did he have a hat trick in every one of those games?
No, this is his 10th goal of the season is what this is called.
I mean, even if it is, who cares? Who cares that he has 10 goals in this league? It's not even like listen, it wasn't a World Cup. It's not Champs League. Like, it's not photo match to, like, him winning a championship. It's not the jersey he was wearing in the World Cup where he scored the game-winning goal. I mean, like, it's great to have a photo match. Photo match matters when you're photo matching it to a moment, I would think. The moment that the jersey. So to me, yeah, it's photo match, but they're both game worn, items. That Pele, if it were photo match to like a World Cup or something like that, I'm sure it would clearly be more. But yeah, but listen, this is exactly what you're saying, though. This week, a Tatum National Treasure RPA sold for a record price, I think. So for like $60-something thousand, right?
I saw 55 or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think like 62. And that's because people think he might win the MVP, blah, 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 blah. Hakeem Olajuwon sells for 10 grand. So I mean, it's Cajun saying it all over again. He's like, no, look at what the potential high side for a player like that is, and look at what it sells for, and look at what the pop is, and look at all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And he's right. But people don't care. People chase the now. People chase what people want now. And I get it. It's supply and demand. But I think what people forget about is that I think the demand for current players will almost always go down.
Let me popcorn. While we're doing this little dance, this tango with you, you bought a red PMG Shaq.
I did. after he had already
There's-
retired.
There's a Barkley, and I don't think grade matters that much in this. It matters a little. The Barkley's
I
a
like the
6.
Barkley.
What do you think? Well, do you think a Barkley outsells a Shaq?
No,
You don't think it will?
no, not even close. Shaq's a beast. Shaq's a top
I
10
agree.
all-time player. Barkley is not. I think it's a cool pairing since Shaq
Yeah,
and Barkley are a cool
agree.
pair. I was actually looking at that card myself. For the pairing. Barkley he's a great player. I mean, he was a great player during that generation where I was watching basketball. He's nowhere even close in the rankings of like all-time greatness to Shaq. I mean, I put Barkley more with like Stockton, who was also a fantastic player, but doesn't have the collector base, doesn't have the fan base, doesn't have the wins of Shaq.
So, guys, a little bit about our motto or values of our kind of podcast and our network in general. 70% of what we do, we want to entertain. 60, 70. 20, 30, we want to educate. And every once in a while, we say, hey, we have this new sponsor. If you want to support, go right ahead. We have this, our NFT if you want to support and buy. So we do try to kind of do like 60, 70 entertainment, 20, 30 education, 10%. We want to sell, make money, keep the podcast afloat. You could not be more right with this Jalen Hurts tip. And I hope that people realize that. And not
I'm just a hater.
I'm just
a hater.
And now that we're 2-3 months or from that clip, it was end of October, so maybe 2 months later. The point isn't his injury. The point is, guys, what happens when somebody outperforms expectations and they have that win streak early on in the season? You see an influx of supply hit the market. Okay, you see a ton of people see this is my moment to sell. And you look no further than the golden auction right now. This is still the number 1 seed. We know he's going to be back for the playoffs. Super Bowl bound, more than likely. He'll be playing meaningful games. He had a season that, as a card holder, you could only expect. And just in this auction, you have a 1-of-1 shield, Jalen Hurts, immaculate, gorgeous card. And then right next to it is a 1-of-1 gold vinyl auto. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So the point is here, guys, it's not, hey, this guy's going to go on win MVP. At the end of the day, the basic factors of economics, supply and demand, play out. Keep that in mind, and hopefully you're able to let that sink in as maybe you're looking at baseball and saying, hey, Tatis, Acuna, Soto, Bryce Harper, whoever, Judge, Mookie Betts, we haven't talked about him in a while. As we're heading into maybe baseball season, maybe soccer, keep these lessons, these patterns in mind, and hopefully you understand why and where we come from when we put those clips out.
Love it. I got a clip. Haven't done this in a while.
I have a clip.
I got something for you.
Babe is calling a shot. Babe is calling a shot.
You might like this also. This is the kind of thing I used to, before we had a podcast, the kind of thing that I would try to capitalize on myself. But now we have 1,000 true fans. We have more than that. We have, 1 million downloads, and we have people who are listening to this early, and maybe you'll get a benefit of it. Maybe you guys will give me one if you happen to find a way to really slam this, because maybe there's somebody out there who can, who can grab a lot of these and maybe corner the market even. Remember, I used to do this. Tatis and Devontae Graham and Pete Alonso.
Luca Nation, if you're like me, I'm hooked. I'm leaning in.
Yeah, gotta. So, guys, what I want you to do is take a look at this month's Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine. Now, you've seen the Sports Illustrated for Kid be relevant for certain items.
How would we do that, by the way?
Just you can type in Sports Illustrated for Kids. It's online and find out how to get a magazine, or you can go to newsstands. Those things, the little Hudson News, wherever you travel and the like. But, someone would have to Google this if you like, but you can pull it up. As a matter of fact, if you want to go on Google right now, and I'll just cut right to the chase, we all know Sports Illustrated for Kids is relevant in the card space. I have a Tiger Woods. There's a Serena Williams. There's a Lewis Hamilton. There's actually 2 Lewis Hamiltons. And for folks in sports like that, people who didn't come right into, prominence and have a card made for them, rookie card, nice and easy, sometimes those Sports Illustrated for Kids cards are highly coveted when you don't have a rookie card that same year. 5-figure cards, right? I mean, like expensive cards in high grade. Well, guys, I'm here to tell you, and I didn't even tell Cajun this yet, and he's probably going to be mad that I didn't just keep this for ourselves. But guys, this is what we try to do, value. I'm here to let you know that this month's Sports Illustrated for Kid has a Victor Wembanyama card in it. Yes, indeed it does. So, if you happen to be a listener of our show, you can get a mass-released Victor Wembanyama Sports Illustrated for Kids card just from buying the magazine. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. It's those perforated
$20
cards.
for a 1-year subscription, by the way. You just go to Sports Illustrated for Kids at the top right. You click buy subscription.
There's probably plenty of ways. Maybe somebody out there knows someone who has a newsstand that can get all 50 copies from that person. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's got a connection somewhere. Don't go to your local library and rip it out, folks. That would be mean. But, if you have the ability
Who would that be mean
to the next person who tries to rip it out and it's not there anymore. So take a look. Actually, you could just Google Sports Illustrated for Kids Wembanyama if you want to spell that right ahead. But you'll see it pop up on Google. You'll see it's the same. The magazine has a white page with perforated 9 sports cards on it. You've seen Tony Hawk had one. I mean, just a lot of people have had the cards. But here you go. I mean, there are other, releases with him out there, but nothing major, nothing.
You know how I know this is scarce? Google hasn't even caught up to the photos. There's nothing on Google.
So I believe if you look on eBay, you probably can find maybe 1 or 2. I didn't buy them because I wanted to give this play today and let our audience who's interested in speculating and, Victor Wembanyama will have no shortage of cards in a few months, in less than a year. Well, maybe not that. I think Hoops comes out next week for this year's class. So maybe it'll be a little more than a year. But he'll have rookie cards, he'll have Prism cards, he'll have National Treasure cards, he'll have all those things, next year when he comes into the league. But there it is. $75. And there's $50 for the whole sheet, right? So that says damage, so don't buy that one. But there you go. I mean, a lot of people don't know that this is something that's out there right now that you can buy. There's the Mia Hamm card, so I forgot to mention Mia Hamm had Sports Illustrated. So this is one where, guys, if you're able to find it, there are not going to be a ton of these out there. There's not going to be a ton of people grading these things. You might be able to get first to market on this. I did some research on it and found it yesterday, and I was like, you know what? Normally, prior to having this audience and the show where we try to find ways to give value to you guys, I would have just, been on Google for a couple hours and found a way to order 50 of these.
Kate heard been around city. I need a Sports Illustrated. I need Sports Illustrated.
Every newsstand, exactly.
I need one more.
Okay,
sir, you have 2,000 right there.
Yes, sir.
I need them. I need them all. I have other customers.
It'd be calling me, man. It'd be calling me. I'm like the Pookie of Sports Illustrated for Kids. Anyway, I didn't buy any. I can tell you right now, hand to the heart, I haven't bought a single one of these because I want you guys to be able to get them. And I don't think anybody's looking for these yet. So the prices on them haven't really been run up. Look, there's one sitting on eBay.
Right.
So, and that doesn't.
It's a pretty off-center one, by the way, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of them are just because of the positioning on it. I think most of them are off-center. But take a look. It's just one of those things, guys. I mean, I had to do this in the middle here because you just talked about how the show is like 90% this and 30% this and 120% this. The math didn't add up to 100, so I wanted to just sprinkle a whole
70,
bunch.
20,
I was making a joke. I was making a Yogi Berra joke.
Well, think about it, guys. We used to have back in the 90s Beckett Media, right? But we said all of these influencers entered the space in 2020. Well, how many have stayed, and how many have built a platform for the actual betterment of the community? And it's no disrespect to anybody, but for us and for me, I see a lot of content that's me. Look at the card I bought. Look at the card I'm picking up. Look at the card I'm selling. It feels like it's always, hey, look at these autos or this cool collection of something, which is fine. There's a place for that. We wanted this place to be kind of a one-stop shop for all of your hobby listening needs. And we're building that, right? We have the collector series. We have Black Jaded Wolf as that's coming up, as the shows are rolling back around to share what a true high-end dealer is seeing and feeling on the market, right? Give you guys insight, give you guys that maybe that half inch or half a step advantage on the competition because you hear it right from her who gets it back from a show and shares. And obviously Cage is amazing as a host. We have Cage and Cardboard who does the PWCC week recaps and high-end Jordan cards and all that. Our goal is that you come to this network and you're able to get a variety of content that fits your needs. And here's just another example. We're a daily show. we're going to bring you guys kind of off the cuff stuff that we're dealing and experiencing with. And Cage was in the city today. Maybe he knew this before. Maybe he saw something in the city. I love that you share that, man. That's why our followers follow us, in my opinion.
Value. People who are
Value.
listening to this now, they got a head start on that. Because, I mean, if you believe Cajun, this kid's the best thing to come into the league since Michael Jordan. LeBron
He's very
James.
ridiculously physically talented. You usually can't move that athletically and be that big.
I happen to think he looks exactly the same as Bol Bol. I think he's the same talent, the same skill level, the same everything as Bol Bol. But that's just me. I am the naysayer of the group. You can tell from my takes. But this is one of those like
Bol Bol wasn't a darling for some reason. Like the scouts and
I mean, until that's who was Mosaic card.
Right, but like people didn't invest in his development. I think Bol Bol's fantastic. The hobby. I'm talking about the teams. Like any team that gets Wemby is going to build around this guy. Whereas Bol Bol wasn't seen as that, so the teams didn't invest. Like he played for Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even. He got like 4 minutes a game. Did they really not see a place for him? So I don't know, man. It's interesting, but I agree. I think Bol Bol. If you guys haven't watched Bol Bol play, please take some time and actually watch him play.
Yeah, and buy some Mosaic. Anyway, I just wanted to do this because I'm always like sell this and risk manage. I mean, this is one of those could be fun. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a 5-figure card like some of the other Sports Illustrated stuff, right? But it's a cool thing, right? I mean, you'll be first to market with Victor Wembanyama cards that are, I mean, I don't want to call it mass produced, but I mean, it's Sports Illustrated, you know.
You don't have to sell them. You could just keep them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you could and it's going to cost a couple bucks.
Yeah. So like that's where it's at. So anything else before we kind of wrap up? It'll be a short episode today because one, I have a thing to do, but second, I mean, we have a lot of content out. You know, just earlier today, we released the NBA show with Cajun. So anything else top of mind? I want to share with you guys, not to overreact with the Celtics game. They were coming off a really tough game in Denver. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that game.
They got beat by Denver, yeah.
But at the end of the game, Robert Williams kind of bent the rim. And at the end of the game, they had to wait for basically an hour for the crew to come in and fix the rim. They did that. They had to finish the rest of the game, and then they had to fly to OKC. Lethargic, you know what I mean? It's just like kind of like it's a game. 150 points is insane. So
yeah, tied for the second most ever scored against the Celtics in the 70s. They let somebody score 160 against them. I was watching the game
without SGA, which is crazy.
Yeah. And they had 150 with like 2 minutes left, and they just kept calling fouls on Oklahoma this way. They didn't keep scoring. They kept calling offensive fouls and turnovers and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they had 150 where they had a shot at that 160, the record against the Celtics, but the refs were just like, nope, travel, nope, hand over. Like, and a lot of it were like makeup calls. Like Peyton Pritchard was in. That dude, I heard them talking about like I don't know if it was like a pro-am game or something. He scored like 96 points in some sort of like a some sort of amateur game, some sort of like not against pros. But I mean, he can light it up. He comes in garbage time, but he can shoot. But he's got
range.
He got mauled going to the basket, and they didn't call a foul. And you could tell he's like looking at the refs, like, all right, if that's not a foul, like what is it? That's like targeting in football, right? And Oklahoma already had 150. Oklahoma City already had 50, and whoever had the ball, they called like palming on him, like a carry, and. You can call that on every play in the NBA now. That was like the makeup call for not calling a foul on Pritchard. It's like, I mean, I'm the only idiot watching the end of the game where it's 150 and 130, and you're like, what? Why am I watching this?
This is where the character is revealed, in your opinion.
I mean, no, I get to see players play who don't ever really get a chance to play. So that was fun. Peyton Pritchard looks legit if he got a shot somewhere. But there were only 3 games on last night, so when that ended, it was like, all right, nothing else to watch, So
whoever does basketball scheduling is brilliant. They're really good at how they schedule.
The Jazz game was on last night too. They look Laurie Markkinen, man. He looks legit. So the only other little tidbit, because I know you got to bounce, is I am really curious. There was some positive news coming out of Cincinnati today about the injury. Mm-hmm. To DeMar Hamlin, right? They said that some of the tests they've done were positive results. I mean, he's still in critical condition. He's still in intensive care. But if it continues to get better, the NFL will start to have conversations with those teams about what they're going to do. I'm very curious about what they do with that game. They announced that the Bengals will play this week, and that I think the Bills play the Patriots, which has implications. If the Patriots win that game, Patriots get in. Like, they control their own destiny. Mac Jones and the
Patriots could get
Patriots
in.
with a win.
Interesting.
Yeah, they win this week. They're in. A lot of fun.
How do you think the locker room is for the Bills? Like, they're probably a little bit distracted this week.
I'm sure distracted. I'm sure that, they also probably want to get out there and, win for their guy and, the whole deal. I'm sure there's a lot of, different emotions going on there.
I think a big thing that would give people peace of mind is if it was the contact that stopped the heart, or it was like, how Christian Eriksen's was, he was just standing and he collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they're going to give any insight into, like, if it was the hit that kind of caused the heart to stop, or if it was kind of on its
own.
I
don't know if they'll ever know, but I'm sure that, there will be, more facts and more stuff that comes out as he's more on the mend, as he continues to clear, hurdles, they downgrade his condition. Let's hope. All that fun stuff.
Do you know that he's sleeping on his stomach? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
To give, his lungs a break. Interesting. Doctors are smart, man. Some of our medical advances are insane. Like, just think about, like, even if that happens 50, 60 years ago, like, they have everything ready. Like, they're ready to give CPR. They have that, like, vent thing.
Oh, yeah.
People, they are ready. And I know that a lot of people said, like, the player safety, the NFL doesn't care about player safety. I tend to agree. But I will say, like, the actual people who do their jobs that implement what NFL has are incredible, man.
The thing the NFL should work on first and foremost right now is
better helmets.
No, it's not something specific. It's not an acute thing. It's something broader than that. It's not chest targeting, because that's going to be what they talk about this week. And it's not CTE, which was the flavor, with concussions last week. It should be more of the Players Association should figure out a way that anyone who plays in the NFL and plays this sport, this combat sport, where these guys are, it's a known risk and the NFL is subjecting them to this, like, anything that happens to them later on in life should be covered from a medical standpoint. That's what I would work on.
Give me 30% of your salary.
My salary? Okay.
Well, no, you're the quarterback. How much do quarterbacks, like, get $50 million a year now?
Well, they probably can come up with a fund for that, whether it's a percentage of the salaries that go in,
though.
Whether it's some sort of a revenue, whether it's ticket price. You're right. I'm sure that there's a way.
Because I would argue they're like, hey, like, you got all the money in the world, you're making millions. We don't need to take care of you. You find the private doctor that you can take care of.
So that makes sense for the NFL quarterback. But do you know how much DeMar Hamlin was making? A 6th round draft pick who just started. He hadn't made his money yet. This is a guy who's been playing football probably since he was 4 years old. He went to Pitt because he stayed home. He's a Pennsylvania kid. He was drafted, and he's not making, and he's not going to make it anymore. I'm hoping he recovers. But most people in the NFL don't have the type of paydays that you're talking about. They definitely don't have the longevity in the sport. I'm not saying they're poor. I'm not crying poverty for them, but
it's not a ton of money. So
probably very small rookie deal, 6th rounder.
4 year, $3.6 million total. So $900,000 a year, $160,000 signing bonus, and $160,000 in guaranteed. His base pay in 2022,
which is great. It's more than I make, right?
So it's not a ton.
I see it's great. It's a lot of money, but he's not making millions and millions. And most NFL players are not. Most of them are undrafted free agents and the whole. But I get it. There is a way. The Players Association, it could be from the players. It could be a pool. It could be you name it. But most NFL players don't play for a long time. They play long enough to get hurt and will have those injuries to their head, to whatever else forever. And I think that it's just one of those things the NFL can easily work on, and they should, from a PR standpoint, from a health standpoint for their players and that kind of stuff. I don't want to get too crazy.
It's got to come from the 1% that it's got quarterbacks and owners got to combine, I think.
Wherever it comes from, you know what I mean? It could be a ticket surcharge. When fuel prices went up, all the landscapers in my neighborhood added $10 fuel surcharge, and then they just never took it off when fuel prices went down.
That's how taxes started. You guys know that taxes started with Lincoln funding the war? Is that right? You could Google this because it might be wrong. But the way taxes started was to fund a war, and the point was after the war was over, to get rid of taxes, and that never happened. Correct me. Seriously, Google this. I could be wrong. I don't know this for a fact, but I heard this secondarily. Double check this.
All right. Well, so I mean, I don't know about that. So anyway, where I was going with it before we went a little sideways, which I have a tendency of doing, is I'm curious to see scheduling wise what they do, because everybody, don't forget there is a week off between the championship game and the Super Bowl, the Pro Bowl week. So the NFL does have that week to play with. They could potentially play out week 18 and then have their bye, right then and there.
Push playoffs 1 week.
Push playoffs 1 week. Let the Bengals and Buffalo play their game there. And the difficult part then is, the NFC 1 seed is going to get 2 weeks off. If either of those teams win the 1 seed as a result of that game, they're not getting 2 weeks off. They would get 1 week off because they would get the bye. But so
it's messy. But
I don't know
when
how
there's a
they
will,
do it,
there's a way. There's got to be a way.
We'll see, man. It's definitely interesting to see how it plays out.
I guess football is a type of sport where you could really only play once every 7 days. Like you can't, like basketball, you could go back to back. It's pretty easy to fill it back in.
Well, I mean, even if they did like a Thursday game, right? Sunday, then Thursday. Both of these teams are playing Sunday. So even if they said, all right, they're going to play on Thursday, one of those teams, if they don't push the playoffs off, one of those teams is playing Sunday.
Sunday, Thursday, Sunday.
Both of those teams could be. If KC gets the bye, they could both be playing Sunday, Thursday. You can't do that, I don't think. I mean, you can't, those teams would be at a significant disadvantage.
You have a Super Bowl favorite?
I told you, I like Joe Burrow to win the MVP. And I think the Bengals, but I was saying that before they've moved up the last couple of weeks. You started to see them really pick up some steam defensively.
His odds have gone down.
As an MVP?
He's plus 750. He was plus 600.
Yeah. I mean, well, because some of the other guys have really stepped up, really put their numbers up there. I'm sad to see one player who playoffs were irrelevant, but Fields is ruled out. He has a hip injury, nothing crazy, but just like, a hip flexor kind of thing. Not going to threaten next year, you name it. But he was yards away from Lamar Jackson's quarterback record for most rushing yards in a single season, and he's not going to break it. That was your
guy. Cage was riding this guy.
He had over
rushing
1,000.
Prop.
Fields he had over 1,000 yards as a QB, which that does not happen that often. But he could have broken the record. I think what's funny is that he missed a couple games, so but I don't think they're going to rush him out there to do it. First of all, he's injured. But second of all, you would have had it took him one more game to do it anyway than what Lamar did. So it would still be, when he breaks the record, still be an asterisk and, the whole deal. So, why mess with it? He had a great year. I really enjoyed watching him play. He didn't really have too much talent around. You want to talk about somebody who they need to, put some talent
He can't pass.
So
he doesn't read the defense.
He's not as good this year as Hurts was last year, but Hurts made significant strides. Like I know I said sell Hurts, but I also said sell Hurts not because he sucked. I said sell Hurts because of what had happened with his prices and because of the potential downside versus the minimal amount of upside. If you saw what Hurts did, if Fields has a similar progression.
AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. I would argue Devonta Smith might be as good as AJ Brown.
So
he's had an incredible. He hasn't turned the ball over, I think, all year.
The QBs are as good as their weapons. And while Tyreek Hill is off of Kansas City, he still has our friend Travis Kelce. Not as good, but, and Mahomes is a special case. But Tua looked legit for most of the year because he had Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Joe Burrow, he's a cool customer and everybody loves Joe Cool, but he's throwing to two of the best wide receivers in the league. And Jalen Hurts, same thing. Yeah, I'd love for some of these QBs to get some wide receivers. It's not the same for everyone. I mean, they gave Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and he sucked.
Is football getting more physical? This is the first season I remember. Obviously, there's Trey Lance who broke his leg. This guy who broke his leg. I mean, that happens. But early on in the season, we're talking about DeMar Hamlin. Tua's gone through 3 terrible concussions this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was like sort of like player safety 1A was Tua, and then DeMar is now. I don't remember it being this physical.
So there's a lot of things that have to be changed. One of the things that probably people aren't thinking about, and I'm sure the NFL doesn't want it, but I'd be looking at specifically for injuries now. I'd be looking at different turf. I'd be looking at turf with way more give, artificial turf with more give. Because when you see these guys mash the back of their head down, if you have the turf with a little more give, it's going to lessen the extent of those injuries. It's also going to allow for people to not, have as many turf injuries. Carolina's turf field is actually, I think, being investigated right now. There's like an investigation about their field. The problem with that is the more give the turf has, the slower the game is on it.
Right.
So people like the fast game, but if you speed the game up, you're also going to have more injuries.
I don't. Sometimes you think about it. These guys are athletes, and my mom, like you explained them, she's like, "How big are these guys?" I'm like, "Well, I'm probably the smallest guy in the league."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then these guys are running into each other. It's basically two cars colliding, time and time and time again.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. There's not more injuries.
I mean, it's very fast. You don't even realize how fast the NFL game is. You can see it live, and it's a significant step up in speed from even college. That is, what they say the biggest adjustment for players is that
faster, bigger.
Yeah. Listen,
like
when we have
Michigan
more,
and TCU, these
when
guys
we have more time,
tiny.
we could talk about the craziness of the Reina Burkholder.
Yes.
But, I don't know shit about that. You're the soccer expert.
So
but,
here's what happened.
Talk about a crazy drama.
Burkholder, so Claudio Reyna was the captain of the men's team, I think, in 2002. Mm-hmm. Had a good career. He was more, he was more a leader than an amazing talent, but he played that defensive
like
center
LeBron.
mid really well. Stay with me. Him and Greg Berhalter, the coach of the U.S. men's national team, go way back. And when Claudio Reyna, the dad of Gio Reyna, found out that Gio Reyna would have a limited role in the World Cup, he messaged people in the organization of the U.S. men's national team that he's going to leak information, personal information, that maybe scandalous information on Greg Berhalter. I think from the first play that Gio Reyna had, he came in, I think it was in the 80th minute, and he lost the ball, and he threw his hands up kind of like in a hissy fit and didn't chase. And this is something that if you played youth soccer, coaches are you lose the ball, you have to chase. So right off the bat, I came on here and I said Gio Reyna doesn't have I didn't love his attitude. And now all this comes out. Burkhalter, you could say he's a scumbag, all that. It's probably true. He shouldn't reveal things that are going on behind the scenes.
Keep it in the locker room.
Keep it in the locker room. No question. Let's put that aside. Let's table that. I agree. Is there anything worse than what is that Office episode where Mike brings his nephew into the office? What is it called? Nepotism. It was the Nepotism episode. I hate that so much, man. And now it shows that Reyna doesn't have to earn his spot on this team because his dad is a U.S. legend who's going to go and make sure that he plays. And it's a really kind of crossroads for this U.S. men's national team. One, who's going to be the next coach? But two, it's who's going to be in the next system, right? So do you sort of have to build the next system around Gio Reyna so you don't have to deal with the backlash because daddy is going to be very unhappy that his son isn't playing?
I got to tell you, man, I heard this whole news story and all this stuff unfolding, and all I could think of was Sebastian Maniscalco. Was that his name? The
Love
comedian.
that guy.
I'm like,
he's hilarious.
Aren't you embarrassed? That was the only thing that went through my brain.
Aren't you embarrassed?
Aren't you embarrassed? If you're U.S. soccer, aren't you embarrassed? It's a good thing nobody actually collects soccer cards because it would not be a good thing for soccer collectors right now. The way the U.S. soccer stuff is looking.
Burkhalter could be the worst coach in the world, but you can't. We know nepotism happens where it's the mailman's son is going to play. It's the league here. Okay, we get it. But at that level, earn your spot, man. Earn the respect of your teammates. And don't just earn it. Make it without a shadow of the doubt. You're the best. Show us. You don't need daddy to come in and make sure you play. That doesn't sit well with me. As being on a team, I hated that. There's a kid. He came in and he was a late recruit. He was recruited like June or July, and he actually stayed with me and Bro when we were rooming together. And he was just the weirdest dude on this trip. Like he would show us the weirdest stuff. And then the coach brought him on a full scholarship. And he didn't ask us. He didn't get our opinion. And then this kid coming into training camp was like the coach's favorite. But he wasn't good. He didn't perform. And it divided our team because we're building something special. And then you bring in this one outsider late who doesn't really add anything. But he's like your guy. And you want to fit him in. And you want to put that square into a round hole. In a round peg, and it just doesn't work. And that's what I see here because I was really proud of the U.S. performance.
So who was it? Was it like his nephew? Was it like a neighbor's kid? Like you have to finish that story off.
It was so
nepotism.
It wasn't. So here's how I explain it. Our coach loved Guardiola. He loved these like small Latin American soccer players who are really, really skilled. So it was like his dream guy.
Okay.
He was like, found this guy with all of these skills. But he didn't fit into the system that the rest of the guys were.
I've had the ability to work in several different jobs where the son of a partner, the son of a boss, the son of someone important was given a role either equal to mine, tangent to mine, adjacent to mine, you name it. And I will tell you that they always fall into one of two categories. The first one happens more often than not. Person who doesn't do anything because everything has just been given to them, and they just take, and it's bestowed upon them because of the lottery that they won at birth. Then there are the other ones. There's less of them, but they do exist, who realize that they're going to be looked at that way, and they work twice as hard as everybody else to make sure that no one is looking at them and saying that they're given anything. And I've actually met a few sons like that who they work harder than anybody else because they don't even want anyone to be able to say they've gotten anything handed to them because of, who their dad was or who their relatives were. So
Stephen Curry, Kobe Bean Bryant. That's another episode.